We're really excited today to have Alistair and Nick take us through some of the secrets of scaling your business, through the practices that Lloyd mentioned. So thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Craig. So I'd like to now just introduce our speakers, and then they're going to launch into their fantastic presentations. So first up, I'd just like to introduce Alistair Hofert. Alistair is the co-founder of Synapse Squared and spends his time on two things. Firstly, helping clients increase business performance and introduce new capabilities using intelligent automation and AI. And he also does, spends his time building digitized businesses that have exponential capability. His massive transformative purpose is to amplify human capability for good. Then he's going to be joined by Nick Benson. Nick is the founder of Rising Tribe, and he focuses his time on helping organizations find, nurture, and enable entrepreneurs, and building startups and new ways of working on the edge of existing companies to create a more inclusive economy. And Nick's MTP is turning disruption into advantage. If you have any questions during the presentation, please pop them in the chat. I'll be just keeping an eye on that. There will be a little bit of time at the end of the presentation for some questions, and they'll be able to answer before Craig just wraps everything up for us in a summary. So sit back. Hope you've got a pen and paper ready. Alistair, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Lloyd. I just want to confirm that you guys can hear me clearly.
Loud and clear.
Great. So thank you very much, guys, for joining us. I'm privileged and delighted to be joining Nick and the community. I see we've got people from Greece, Spain, USA, India. I think I spotted someone in Latin America. So thank you. We feel the pressure and the responsibility to deliver the best we can today. And confirming that you can all see what we're showing on the screen. Great.
Yes.
Thank you very much, guys. So we're going to be focusing on growing current businesses and new businesses. We've called it exponential growth using digital techniques with 3 topics, and we've set them out over there. What we're going to speak about today, there's a specific order. We're going to explain what network effects are, firstly, and why you should bother about that. Nick is then going to link what a flywheel is to network effects. We're going to spend a couple of minutes looking at Amazon, very successful case study that's of what's happening in the world. And then Nick has got some practical steps in terms of when you wake up on Monday morning, what do you do with the material that you've seen today? Now, we're living in exponential times, which are not that much fun, to be honest. I don't like to use the word crisis, but we are going through radical change. And what we want to show is that you can use digital techniques to engineer what will be inside your business already or transform what you have. So when we go into network effects, I'd like you to please share with us what is on your mind when you hear the word network effects. And the reason I'm asking for this, please, is that we collectively will get to see what is on each other's minds, and whatever words you put in there, I'm going to do my best to talk to them. So please, can you go to menti.com? You'll enter a code which is 81 39 86 and 0. And this is free form text. I would like to ask, please, if you could put a minimum of 3 words in there. And this word cloud is something that we'll share with you later so that you have collective intelligence, and also we know how to respond to you following up from this session. All right, so if you visit menti.com, there'll be one dialog box, and if you put this code in, you'll see some dialog boxes come up where you can enter your words. So we're still holding on for people to enter. As you type and press submit, those will appear on the screen here.
Guys, you can check the chat. I shared the link in the chat with the code.
Mouth. Compound effect, fantastic, great. All right, so there's some good thoughts. Compound effect is spot on. Yes, it definitely relies on connections. Engage and support. Word of mouth, something a little bit different there. Great, just having a look in the chat to see what's happening with you guys there. Thank you, there's the codes, they're coming through. Fantastic, so engage is coming out as the most prominent thing. Thank you. I'm glad for this collective intelligence because it will be the cornerstone of what you do in the digital domain. All right, there's quite a bit coming in there. I'm going to give it 1 more minute and then I'll go back. Okay, interesting stuff, value of service. Great. I'm going to go back into the presentation. Thank you so much. We'll share this with you. Value of service and engage. Now, last week we had a presentation which is around your brand, and value of service comes from that. So some nice insights from you guys. Thank you. Why would we bother about network effects? If you look at what has been happening in the past 25 or 26 years, 70% of all value created in technology comes from network effects. I believe this is a reliable source because NFX is an outfit in the US, and these founders have created, built, and used network effects and exited and sold businesses to the value of $10 billion. So their study and experience is really worth paying attention to. And some of the concepts that I'm showing today, I think they've articulated well, and I'll be sharing that with you. If we as entrepreneurs understand this, what is important is category defining companies. And we saw in the word cloud value of service. So once you've determined your value and your brand, to become a category of one or have that kind of unique value proposition, which is digitized, super important, you'll have a category defining company. I'm going to be using two things today as an example so that doesn't feel like a university lecture. Us as a community today, democratizing entrepreneurship. And the second thing, which is Thinkific and exofutures.co.za, where we've got content. What that is about is entrepreneurs are taking their knowledge and capability, digitizing it in a platform, and creating a marketplace, which requires network effects. I want to chat about three kinds of network effects out there, and please start thinking about how this might apply to your business. Thank you. A marketplace would be like eBay or Gumtree, where you will clear demand and supply. Data, this is super important. If you're an entrepreneur and you have knowledge and insights about your customers or an industry, the network effects of taking what you know together with commercially available data and binding that together and monetizing it and putting it out into the market and your own customers is a good example of taking collective intelligence and monetizing that through data and network effects. Platforms such as Microsoft and Google and Amazon, you can build your entire business on there, and that's very useful for B2B type activities. I'm not going to call out everything on this page. I'm just going to open up my pointer and focus on three things today. Platforms, marketplace, and market network are worth paying attention to. A physical network effect would be a landline or fiber or an Ethernet cable going in the wall, and that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about embedding your brand, typically in a two-sided digital marketplace, so that your business runs and you don't have to be there, and you're not limited by hours per day or quantity of people when you engage a market. Network density is important. I've put LinkedIn and WhatsApp over here, and the reason these diagrams are different is that you will have different densities that you need to look out for, where your information and popularity and ratings and service and products. For example, today we've got 30 participants on the call out of a community of 400. We've got a high density today of 30 compared to the other 370 that we should be pulling in. It's important to understand that there's directionality here. When you design this in your business, influencers and followers, it's one-way traffic. There's photos and recommendations and things like that, compared to users such as ourselves, which will go into a marketplace. If you think of digitizing your IP, it will be you creating something on a platform such as Thinkific and EXO Futures, which will be viewed by many others and then recommended to other people. Now, the reason that is so important, I've taken a screenshot of a website on the top right-hand side, EXO Futures. There is, at the moment, only one entrepreneur on there, and she's got, I think, 6 or 7 modules. What is super important there is have a look at what Amazon did. To get indirect network effects, they increased their inventory massively from books to everything. Now, if we as entrepreneurs can load and put our intellectual property on this site, for example, Lloyd is hosting us today. And I gave an example about 3 weeks ago. Why can't you take a digitized version of your intellectual property and create an avatar where people can self-service themselves, and that hands over the conversation to the psychologist or clinician when you need the human interaction? That's one way to digitize your business, and you get amazing indirect effects there. So you can scale yourself through technologies. Now, I'm going to take Nick and myself as an example. If we take today's course and we make it into 6 or 7 hours, very detailed, and we put it here with Tiana, we will get an indirect network effect. When people search for her material, like how do I find remote freelancers on Google? They come here and they say, oh, wow, I didn't know I could learn about network effects in the flywheel. I'm going to click on that and take up this course. That is a real life example of indirect network effects that work for us. And if you can imagine that page having 30 or 50 pieces of content, that is a high concentration, high value set of network effects that are really worth paying attention to. Switching costs. If you imagine YouTube on the left and on the right, you think about EXO futures, switching costs can be dollars or whatever the currency is that you use, or it can be content. For example, if the value of this content is so high, it doesn't become worth it to go back to YouTube if you've got network effects that reinforce everything related to entrepreneurship in one place. All right. So worth paying attention to, we said value, and then I saw the word collaboration in the word cloud. This is where communities such as ourselves come together, and it's not just about you. Collectively, you reinforce those network effects and you benefit both the customers and yourself. Where do you start? I would, must I find people who want to buy, or do I build something first? I would recommend starting with supply. We saw the first part of supply on that website where there's just one, then it's going to grow to 2, then 4, then 6, then 8. Those network effects are going to onboard new entrepreneurs faster and faster when that becomes known, and recommendations and other students come onto the platform. So it's very useful to start with the supply, which is tough. And I know that Nick is going to speak a little bit about the flywheel, but the flywheel moves slowly first and then it moves faster, and there'll be some detail there. But starting with the supply side, which is tough and slow, and then speeds up. Be careful of multi-tenanting. For example, if you digitize your intellectual property and you put it on 4 platforms, people might leave one platform and go to another one. Like, let's say I upload this on YouTube today. You can go watch it for free, or you're going to pay $50 for a deep dive 7-lesson course. You might never take that up. So if you, as a person, take your product or service and you put it in lots of different marketplaces, be careful, because you might weaken the strength of network effects because you're available in many places, which sounds attractive, but people will go for the cheapest or the easiest one, and then they won't reinforce each other in one place, which is exactly what can happen here. You might be disintermediated by someone else if you spread yourself across lots of, when I use tenant, think about marketplaces. Customer retention is super important. Network effects become weak when people leave. Maybe we've got 30 people here today and then only 6 of them are interested in more detail. What we need to do is make sure that you continuously watch the service that you're putting out there or the product. So if you're in consulting, don't sell things that people don't want, because they're not going to stick around. It might be a once-off. And if you digitize your content, you need to revise that thing pretty often to keep it relevant in terms of what's happening. Like 7 months ago, what you put on the internet in terms of content might be irrelevant because of lockdown and COVID and a new world that we're living in. So platform business models, I mentioned Microsoft Azure, for example. So you can store all your data in there. You can do your CRM, you can do your accounting, business intelligence and reporting in one place, which is quite useful if you create digital products, because people at the bottom might consume that, such as yourselves, and you might use low code or zero code development, also really worth paying attention to. Given that we are living in a digitized world, don't break your head as an entrepreneur on the fact that you need to understand complicated technologies. Look for the easiest ones, and I'm going to use the word Lego blocks. So when you go to Amazon or you go to Azure, you can use those things and put Lego blocks together much easier than what you would have to do if you had to design it from the ground up. And you put your digitized product out in the market, and the product is different to your IP that's digitized. The one would be training and learning and that sort of thing. And the other one might be self-service psychology that I mentioned earlier. Another one might be self-service AI, something I would offer. Branding, I won't go through that. Here's a busy slide, and I'm not going to explain everything on here, but what I would like to draw your attention to is that there is a canvas that can help you as an entrepreneur to understand these things on the left-hand side, the correlation, same side, and cross side. When I said you've got lots of different people in one marketplace, it becomes super powerful. And here I filled it out with Airbnb. So, this will be relatable to people in terms of, okay, I know how Airbnb works. Let me read this canvas and look at the headings on the left. And how can I apply that to my business? So what I've tried to do is to summarize all of this before I hand over to Nick, is to say, this is what network effects are. Here is what a marketplace looks like. And here is how you can digitize your product in one area rather than many, many areas, and keep those network effects very strong. Now that you have those examples, please have a look at this canvas. This might sound a little bit academic, but I did this for myself. And it certainly forces you to think about, where are my weaknesses? Like, how is my business, Alistair, not getting network effects? I'm not on a platform. I haven't digitized my IP. I haven't created self-service products. I need to go on Monday and make that happen. How do I do that? I'll concentrate on filling out some of these blocks. And you can use this together with some of the recommendation steps that come from Nick towards the end, in terms of saying, cool, I understand that. I understand a flywheel. I can fill this out. And then the steps that come from Nick, what do I do in terms of, the practical or pragmatic action steps that I will take next week? We've got 3 minutes left, if I understand Lloyd correctly. Please can I ask you guys to go back to menti.com. After you've listened to the first part of 3 parts today, the question that I have for you is there anything more that you feel you need to know as an entrepreneur? There's more to come, but this is a temperature check that we're taking with the community. And if you wouldn't mind, please visiting menti.com and entering this code. Awesome stuff. So please put this in here. The reason this is so important, folks, is that if you feel there's something that you need, when we do the temperature checks, so this is an open forum for you as entrepreneurs to say, I feel like I need this. And this is free form text again. And to highlight whatever you type in here, your heart's desire, we will respond and we'll bring back content to you to help you as entrepreneurs. If you feel that you haven't got enough detail today, or there's more topics, how do I take risks, jump off a cliff? Well, you know what I think is practical. How do I take risks? How do I safely take risks as an entrepreneur would be a very useful thing. Working across geographies. Okay, fantastic. I can see that we have to come back to you guys with details. So network effects are designed to cross borders and languages. And that's why you digitize your intellectual property, so that you don't have to be there at night when you're sleeping and go across borders. Storytelling. Beautiful stuff. Is governance important? Awesome. So what I'm seeing here is, there's a session, people are asking, how do I take risks safely? How do I go across borders? There's some practical examples that we can come back with. And this is where I think, for example, Thinkific, you can have Craig and Lloyd and Nick and myself come back to you guys and say, watch this website. This is how you go across borders. This is how you safely take risks. That's kind of what this whole community is all about. Using our collective intelligence can mitigate risk to say, I think I want to do this with the product. What does someone think? Templates are becoming more and more important here. You have to move fast and you don't have time to invent things. So we'll pay attention to that. Perfect.